Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the podcast Indestructible Souls. It's been a while, y'all. I've been busy and exhausted. However, we're back with an exciting show. I want to thank you guys for your continued support. And I have an exciting show today. We're going to talk about financial literacy, building wealth, and things like that. But before we get to it, I want to thank everyone for the continued support for the show. And just to be honest with you and be transparent, things have been growing for the practice Beauregard Therapy. Don't forget you can check me out on at beauregardtherapy.com as well as Psychology Today and Facebook and Instagram. So today's show, before I get there, sorry about that. We have Christmas coming up. And so the Beauregard family, the Griffin family, and the Valerie Pope Ludlow Memorial Foundation will be having our second annual toy giveaway December 19th. So please don't forget to check that out. It's going to be at Living Faithful Gospel Pentecostal Church in San Bernardino, California. We will be having a bike raffle as well as some snacks and food and giving away toys. So first come, first serve while supplies last. So please join us for the holidays. And so today's topic and today's show, I thought it was important to talk about financial literacy. And so I have a special guest that's going to be coming on shortly, my resident expert on finances. He's a property management, but he's also a real estate coach, Mr. James Morris. And his day job, and I'll let him explain it a little bit better, he's an economist. And so I've watched him and his family in terms of financial literacy and how they teach the family financial literacy and all the way down to the kids. Now, why is this important? Well, for one, if we live in a day and age where I know for me, we see a lot of, special social media, people trying to keep up with the Joneses, people trying to, we could call it what it is, floss. And I know the older I've gotten, I see money differently. And one of the things I know about the wealthy versus people who just want to appear wealthy or rich, or people who struggle from paycheck to paycheck, the wealthy have a different relationship with money. And so for African Americans, particularly, this show is always about Black men, but this is about Black folks having a different relationship with finances and Black people having a different mentality when it comes to money, when it comes to investing, when it comes to saving. And so I've asked my cousin, James Morris, to come on, and I'm going to let him in right now and join him with the show. How's it going, sir?
I'm wonderful. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing okay. So I asked Mr. Morris to come on the show, and he's going to give us some game about when it comes to finances, saving, investing, generational wealth, and particularly having a different mentality when it comes to money. Now, this show is geared for, I see a lot of things on Instagram, Facebook, and then you see all these financial shows where they have these financial conferences, and they have people like Shaquille O'Neal and what's the other boxer, the boxer Money Mayweather. They have them on these shows, and then they talk about their investment returns, where most of us don't have $100 million, right? And if we did, great. So I wanted this show to be about the regular, everyday person who may not have the understanding, the mentality, or even the understanding that building wealth does not take millions. But also when we seeing these people that do all these big investments, having an understanding that that's the 1%. They call them the 1% for a reason. But the rest of us have to build wealth over time and having that understanding about money. So I thought this show would be important for that. So first off, let me have Mr. Morris, Mr. James, tell you a little bit about himself and his credentials and what's his expertise. So James, can you please introduce yourself for?
Yes, sir. I'm James Morris. I am an economist for the federal government. I have been doing that over 20 years. I majored in economics and I just became a student of real estate to where my family always invested in real estate at a young age. So when I think about where I am today, it was through the exposure from real estate, the exposure of entrepreneurship, and just showing me how money can work. So me growing up, I grew up in my uncle three flat building, and my uncle, he wasn't anything spectacular about him. He worked for UPS. He retired from UPS as a truck driver. But the commonalities between my uncle and my dad, they both worked for UPS. They both came from Mississippi. UPS was their first job. The difference was my dad was using his money to pay rent in my uncle building, while my uncle was leveraging and using his job to buy more assets. So
Okay.
as I spoke to my uncle, I gravitated to him more because I'm like, hey, it's something different going on here. My dad would go out and party with his friends, and that's where he spent his money, while my uncle would be buying real estate and starting businesses. So from a UPS salary, he bought a three flat building and he bought a 11 unit, then he bought a car wash, a restaurant, a clothing store, a hair salon. And I'm just thinking like, wow, like you doing a lot. And as he had conversations with me, it was more so I'm exposing you to these ways of making money to where you don't have to be the smartest person in the school or in the room, but you have to know how to make money work for you and earn you more money. So
So,
that's a little bit about my background.
okay, I appreciate that. Now, so you talk about your uncle and the UPS salary, and I don't know how much the UPS, made in those days, but I think that's a big point. Now, in terms of working and spending time with your uncle, what did you begin, or what were some of the fundamentals you began to learn about money in general? Because I read a lot of books and they talk about having a relationship with money and, how to treat money, so to speak. So what did you learn about when it came to, like you said, your dad was spending while your uncle was investing? Talk about that for me real quick.
I learned from my uncle. My uncle was a worker, so I learned how to make repairs by overseeing him. And he would always tell me, he was like, look, if you don't know how to repair something, you pay that maintenance man or that repair person one time, you stand over his shoulder and you make sure you ask him a ton of questions because your goal is to make sure you never have to call him back again to make the repair. And it's always about trying. Even if you mess up a repair, you still have to call that same maintenance person or
Right,
repair person to make the repair. But I think a lot of us have so much fear to where we won't pick up a screwdriver or we won't take something apart. And then sometimes the job or the task becomes too big and overwhelming. It's the same thing when if you talk about money. If you say, I want you to save $1 million, you say, oh man, that's just too much. I cannot do $1 million. But if we
right,
start breaking it down and say, you got 20 years to save $1 million, like that's not
right,
really that much money. That's 50,000 a year that you need to save.
right.
We just have to dissect the information and dissect the task. But that was how I learned about money at a young age. Was I observing him? Uh, I'll go in a little bit more. As I mentioned, my uncle had a car wash, and I would work at that car wash on the weekends. And I was started at seventh grade, and of course, it's a process. So I
Right.
started off vacuuming cars. Then by eighth grade, I was doing tires. By high school, I was washing cars. But it
Right.
was the exchange of money that I began to see, like $12 a car coming in. Like we wash and you get tips. And although he was only paying, $2 a car, like on a given day, I may made like $60, $70 a day
Right.
washing cars. And somebody in high school, dollars for Saturday, Sunday, that's good money. But then you take it a step further, it's just like you have to know your take home pay. So
Right.
what I knew was I knew I only needed Monday through Friday to get to school. I needed $1.45. It was
Right.
50 cents to get to school. It was 50 cents to eat. It was 45 cents to come home. So $1.45 a day, I knew that was $7.35 a week. That's all I needed to
Okay.
spend. So
Right.
if I'm telling you I'm making $150 a weekend, I'm only spending $7.35. I'm
Okay.
saving 95% of my money.
Right.
You know, with
And so talk. Let's talk about that real quick. One of the things when we talk about saving versus investing, but when you said you're saving, you said 90% of your money.
I was saving 90%.
So 90% at what age?
Once again, that's 13. I'm
That's 13.
13. Yep.
But I think the key point to that is at 13 you had the acumen to save 90% of your money when a lot of us, including myself, and understand this, my financial literacy is coming later in life. So
Hmm.
this isn't no shot at anyone, but at 13 you had the wherewithal to save 90% of that. Now, I see a lot of shows talk about the wealthy lives off of 25% and then saves 75%, right? And so they take half of it, and obviously there's taxes. Then they take that other half, where I know for us, for a lot of us as Black folks, almost every dime that comes in goes out. So
Right.
one of the things I want you to talk about right now is the difference between saving and investing.
Right. The difference between saving and investing, saving, when you have to know what your net pay is. Me being a landlord, my question to a person, I say, like, what is your net pay? And a lot of people struggle with that because they don't know. They may know their hourly rate, or they may know what their employer told them they make. Oh, I make $30,000 a year. That's
Right,
gross pay. But you're not. I want to know how much you have after taxes, after child support, health, investing in your 401k. I want to know how much money is in your pocket, and
right,
that's what stumps a lot of people. And there's a lot of reasons, backstory to it, but we don't pay ourselves first. So whenever you get your check, the first thing you should do, and what I mean by pay yourself first, is you take out whatever percentage and put it in a savings account. A savings account where it's not linked to a debit card, it's not linked to a checking account, that you cannot easily get access to that money. And then you start, paying your bills down. A lot of us, we live check to check, so we pay our bills first, and then month, whatever we have left, then we don't
right,
save it. We feel like, I worked so hard, let me go please myself and purchase something.
right,
And that's where we never actually get to savings. So savings, you should have a goal. You should have an annual goal of, I'm going to save $5,000 a year. And that doesn't mean you don't dip in that money. That's not your Christmas fund. That's not your entertainment fund. That's not your trip fund. That
right,
is your savings goal.
right.
Uh, but then we
So
know, go ahead.
uh, so you mentioned, and I didn't mean to cut you off, paying yourself first. I hear that a lot. And now here's the question. Is that before taxes? That's after net? And when you say paying yourself first, you're saying whatever your percentage is, that goes to you, not as a spending fund, not as a Christmas fund, but into an account that over time that you're going to build. And here's the thing, and I really want people to understand this. It doesn't have to be a lot. And here's what I mean by that. And based off of your income, because we all, our wages are different. But even if you're putting $100 a paycheck, that's $200 a month. That's what, $2,400 a year,
Right, right,
correct? And
right,
so when you think about, now, I know the bank interest rates aren't a lot, but even if you took that $2,400 a year and then put it in a mutual fund or something that grows, or invested in something else, now that's your foundation for building wealth, correct or no?
It's correct. It's correct. I'll dissect it even more, and I'll say
Okay,
your savings account is your savings account.
okay,
Now, your investment account is your investment account, and it has to be something that you are willing to lose, because the market has volatility, meaning it goes up
mhm,
and down. So if you pay yourself first, that goes to savings. Now I still want you to have a percentage that you're going to invest in the market,
okay,
and invest in the market. They have accounts like if we say stash.com, it's an app where you can begin investing with a minimum of $5. So even if you did, let's just say $5 a month investing, that's $60 a year. And I think a lot of times people want to hit those home runs and don't really understand it's singles that win the game and occasionally
Okay.
a double. So if we do $60, a year, in 5 years, that's $300. But the market
Right.
is doing between 15% and 40%. So
Right.
you're going to earn another $100 to $240 off $600.
Right.
But if you just leave it in a savings account, as you mentioned, the savings account is only going to pay you 0.01% a year. That's a penny on a dollar a year.
Right.
That's why you just don't want to park your money in a savings account and think that you're going to have some wealth at the end of your reign of working.
Right. And so what I'm understanding you saying is you have a savings, and then there's another portion, even if it's $5, put that in some type of investment account.
Yes,
Now
correct.
here's the question. What about those who say, well, I already have a 401k, or I have retirement with my job. Is that enough? I don't think so. What do you say?
It's definitely not enough. And the reason being is a lot of people are parking their money into 401ks, and you're neglecting everything that's going to help you reap those benefits. And what that I mean by that is a lot of us won't even take 5 minutes out of our day to exercise or to
Right.
consume enough water. And the issue with that is you work 40 years and you park your money in the 401k and you die before you can even reap those benefits. Or
Right.
your health is so bad that after you do retire, you got 1 or 2 years to enjoy it. But
Right.
I always say if you really want to maximize it, when I say pay yourself first, there's a step before that. When you get your check, that 401k money needs to come out before you even get to your net pay because it's pre-tax dollars. And you want
Right.
to get to the point to where you're maxing it out. So IRS said you can do 19,500 a year.
Right.
That's the goal, is to max it out.
Now, does that, just real quick, and I don't want to go too far into 401ks, but that depends on age as much as you can contribute per year, correct?
So 19,500 is for anyone. Now
Okay.
you're talking catch up contributions when you're 50 and over, then you can do an extra 6,500, which means you can do 25,000 per year. But
Mm.
yeah, we'll touch on that. So all I'm saying is you should pay yourself to a savings and you should have an investment. And a lot of times people want to know, like, when do you touch it? You have to have a vision for your money. You have to have a vision for that savings account. You have to have a vision for the investment. So what is the goal? And the goal is to transition from active income, which is you going to work, to passive income, and the
Okay.
multiple streams of income to where it's not just your W-2 income. Your W-2 income could be that vehicle to transition you into real estate or transition into entrepreneurship or transition you into, writing a book or the various incomes that you want to have. It's the streams that's what going to carry a person over to that financial freedom.
So when you say, now talk about passive income. So we talked about the difference between savings and investing. And I'm gonna keep driving this point home. People have to start somewhere. So many people wait until, well, if this happened, if I get this money. No, we have to practice discipline and have to start somewhere. So please talk about passive income. And when you say multiple streams of income, talk about that. But start with passive income for me.
All right. So passive income, it's just income that just flows in. So when I think of rental income, I'm excited about the first of the month because money just comes in on the first of the month. If you talk about royalties from your book, that's just income that's going to come monthly. That doesn't require any effort on your part. A lot of people have, podcasts and YouTube channels to where they're paying them on a monthly basis. You're getting
Right.
paid off of just videos or streams or clicks. Uh, Active income is to go to work. If I don't work, I don't make any money.
Right.
And then you just want to have a balance between the two of those. So just think of passive as just like Money that doesn't require any effort is going to be there no matter what you do. Money in your sleep. And
Right.
we use the term in real estate as mailbox money. On the first of the month, you go there and the money is there.
Right. And so when we talk about multiple streams of income, and obviously that's either in investing or like describe that so people can understand what we talk about. That doesn't mean having multiple jobs.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. Because then that's that active component. I mean,
Right.
so when you talk about multiple streams, if they say your typical millionaire has 7 streams of income, like you
Okay.
you have to understand what those streams are. And that one stream could be W-2 income. And then that second stream could be real estate investing, whether you fix and flip or buy and hold.
Hmm.
That third could be interest income, which could be interest off of your savings accounts, or some people have interest checking accounts. That fourth income could be what we call dividend income, which could be stocks and mutual funds, and they pay dividend earnings. Or when the stock goes up and you get a check in the mail. The fifth stream could be if you're an author and you're writing books, and or you have a podcast, and now you having that income that's coming in from an author or speaking engagements. uh,
Hmm.
and then the sixth and seventh income, it could be incomes that you are creating.
Okay.
And for me, I do like real estate coaching, because then I know that that's an additional stream, or self-paced classes that to where you can just buy the class and it doesn't involve me doing anything because I've recorded it, and then it's just money just coming in.
Right.
So those are the streams, and once you get all of those moving, then you have that road to that financial freedom, whatever financial freedom means to you.
Okay. And so when we talk about multiple streams of income, now I say, and this may be getting a little bit off topic, but I've seen this meme a lot, and people say a salary is the bribe that they give you to forget your dreams,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And so a lot of times people are so talented, and there's so many different ways to make money, whether it's passive income, having a home business, whether it's even if you work your regular 9 to 5, having something on the side, and all those things. So how do you balance having a government job plus being a landlord? And I guess what I want you to talk about is how can people get involved in multiple things and kind of encourage them to to not be so scared. Now, and I
Hmm.
use that term scared intentionally.
Right.
One of the things that I know a lot of times people don't venture out is because of fear.
Right. Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, fear will cripple a person. But the reason why you have fear, which is, if you use to break it down, this, false evidence, avoiding reality, uh, that issue is lack of education. So you're fearful because you haven't put in the time to learn. You're not reading, you're not listening to podcasts, you're not preparing yourself. So if you think about like in basketball, like why Kobe Bryant was never afraid to take that last shot,
Right,
because they always said that Kobe would be in practice and he would practice that shot, that same shot 500 times to where it just became normal for him. So in any given situation, he treated practice like it was a real game. So there was
right,
never fear.
right,
So when we talk about how we spend our time, it's Sunday. You got people at home watching every football game, doing fantasy football, tracking
right,
stats by all day players, and you know more about football and players than you do about yourself. What
right,
you need to be tracking is your finances, your income, your assets, your liabilities, your debt. But we won't do that. But I guarantee if we spent the same amount of time as we did watching TV or
right,
sleep, we would be in a better situation.
right,
So if I ask you how many hours of sleep you get, and if you tell me 9, I say, man, can you make it off 8?
right,
And you like, yeah, I can make it off 8 because I've done it before. We've pulled all nighters before. When it matters to us, we can do it. So now if we just say, man, if I just need you to spend an hour a day working on financial literacy, I guarantee you at the end of the year or your life, you're going to be an expert,
Right.
you know. And just taking it back to basketball, Kobe never respected his teammates majority of the time because they didn't put in work. So
Because of their
that's
work ethic.
yeah, he was able to put in 20 years because he practiced. So his body never broke down because he
Right.
always stayed in training mode. We have to
Right.
do the same thing with our mental mindset.
Absolutely. So let's transition. That'll be a good segue into how do we change the narrative and when do we change the narrative about financial literacy? One of the things I respect about you, and believe it or not, and I don't think I ever told you this, but me and Tiffany talk about it all the time, is how you educate your children. And so I bought my nephews some financial literacy books on financial literacy. My grandson, trying to teach them, but I see the things you post, and they see if their stocks go up and down, and I'm now showing Punchy his Disney stock. I'm
Yeah,
showing
yeah,
him that he has stock in Apple,
yeah,
and I showed him his college fund, his 529 plan. So I want you to talk about how, first off, before we get into some of those specifics, how do we begin to change the narrative for even some adults like me,
yeah.
but also for the next generation? How do we change that narrative?
Man, it's a great question. And really, you changed the exposure. And that was the thing. My exposure to real estate and businesses, it let me know like what I wanted to do when I had children. So if you think about like some people have never been out the neighborhood, yet
Right,
alone out of the state, yet alone out of the country, they don't even know it's a whole nother world that exists
right,
because they still on the block. So I knew when I had my kids, I said, look, I want to make sure that they have a head start. And I had my first mutual funds at the age of 13 through my sister because she worked for this company. It was Copeland Company, came MetLife Insurance. And she saw my money in the savings account, and she said, "Hey, you know what? Like, let me put your money in a mutual fund." So I had two mutual funds, and one of those happened to be a tech mutual fund. And we talking about like 1989. You
okay,
know, I had it from the time I was at the car wash. I would kind of dump a little money in there. Wasn't really doing the savings account anymore because I said point zero 0.01, you paying me a cent on a dollar, I'll put it in the mutual fund.
right,
But when I went off to college, I had like $4,400. And I
okay,
didn't contribute any additional money in that in college.
right.
When I
So,
graduated from college 4 years later, the money doubled, meaning
right,
100% return. It was $8,900 in there that I had forgot about.
right,
100% return versus 0.01%.
right. You know, there's two things I just wanted before I forget is, my grandmother used to always try to take us on trips and out of the state, out of the city for that very reason was exposure. But the other thing is, I pride myself in watching my savings grow. And then
Hmm.
I get these statements, and I had this one account, and this is recent. I had this one account, and it had it had $6,000 in it, right? Maybe seven. And then they sent me a return of 67 cents.
Right. Yep. Yep.
So what I did was move that money into the stock market and begin to see immediate returns. But
Exactly.
that's just to understand. Now here's the thing. Think about, and I'm gonna tell this story and I'll let you continue. I was having this conversation with a person, and like I say, no judgment. When my daughter was one, we threw the biggest 1-year-old birthday party that she never will remember. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm
Yeah.
talking. We had dozens of people there. We spent a whole bunch of money, and the mentality was, "This is my daughter. This is the first
Yeah.
one, and we're gonna go big." I can't tell you how much money we spent on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fast forward 30 years. I'm having a conversation with this person, and they're saying the same thing that they want to spend like 2,500 on a 1-year-old birthday party. They want to
Yeah.
get her some Burberry clothes and all this stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
Imagine, just like what you said, imagine putting that in a mutual fund. She's won that
Mm,
2,500 and forgetting about it for
yeah.
18 years.
Right. Right.
Right. And just that. And so we got to change this mentality. But I'm sorry, I just needed to get
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
out real quick.
No. It's good, but a lot of it is it's exposure, and people live by, let me show you how I look like I'm doing well or how much money I'm doing well. And you think by throwing a big party and these lavish gifts shows your love. What I'm
Right.
telling you is, when you leave someone with a will or a life insurance policy or an investment property or some passive income, that tells me how much you love them. Like,
Right.
I'm sick and tired of seeing people die and don't have a will in place, and then
Right.
you allow an estate to divvy up your family assets, and they're gonna charge you 40%, and now you fighting over crumbs.
Right.
You
But
know,
not only no assets, don't even have life insurance. But that's
right?
another story.
Yeah. Definitely, it definitely is. I was giving most people the benefit of doubt to say you do have life insurance, and it's sad, because then I had one of my uncles who died. He's a millionaire. And he did a lot of things, but he died, and the next day he was supposed to have signed his will.
Mm.
So now the courts are divvying up his assets, and people are fighting over and trying to determine what he wanted them to have, and it creates a mess.
Right.
It creates a huge mess. But I think, like, we have to get out of this self gratification of social media, and seeing everything on social media. We see them, the big houses, the cars, and the name brand clothes, and we want that now. But we
Right.
don't want to go through the process of what it feels like to earn those millions.
Right.
And what I mean is that sacrifice that you have to make to get to those millions.
Right.
And I say millions, and me growing up becoming a millionaire, it was never something that I didn't think was possible.
Right.
Because as I remember the conversation with my uncle, I was 18, in his car wash, and he told me, he said, "Look, if you're not worth $1 million by the time you're 35," he said, "it's because you don't want to be one."
Wow.
And
That's
that was
powerful.
18. That was 18. I'm going off to college, and he telling me right then, like, there's no reason why I shouldn't be a millionaire.
But do you think too many people are looking for the come up or looking for the quick, and they're not understanding that this is a building process?
Yeah, yep. People don't want to put in the work. It's just like, even like, not just financial literacy, but I'm just talking about just health. If we talk about health, like, you want to fast for 24 hours, you want to get that body like overnight, not
Mhm.
understanding that people are putting in work for years. It's a regimen that they're doing. Like, they're eating
Right.
healthy every day. It's just not, I'm just going to eat healthy one day,
Right.
and then now I'm supposed to look good,
Right.
or savings. I'm not saying that you need to save 100,000 a year. I'm just saying, like, what if you just saved $1,000 a year? Like,
Right.
how difficult is that? It's 52 weeks in a year. Like, you can't save $20. $20, you can't even fill up your car. You
Right.
know, I'm just saying, if you drink for $20 and you go to the club, why not get you a flask and take your own liquor to the club and save yourself $20?
I heard that. I do
You
that all
know,
the time.
or you can't carpool. You can't take your lunch to
Right.
work. If you take your lunch to work, when we were going in, you saving $50 to $100.
Right.
If you stop drinking Starbucks and you drink
I,
Dunkin' Donuts,
I have to tell on myself. I recently bought a contraption to make my own cold brew.
Okay.
I was doing $10 a day
Yeah.
on Starbucks. That's $300 a month.
Exactly. So
I,
we can find the money if we need to. Like,
if
even if
we
we if
if
we
we
cut
want
back
to,
on
we can find the
yeah,
money.
cut back on some of them cable channels.
Right.
I, I,
Now, let's talk about this real quick. And this isn't on the list, but one of the things that I believe is, we talk about that stimulus package, and when people are talking about the economy is stalling and whatever, I believe they look to black folks.
mm,
And here's why: we're the smallest part of the population, but our money goes so fast through our community that I believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, you're an economist, that our dollars, because we spend so much, drives this economy. And
Yeah.
or heavily affects it. And we talk about the stimulus package, and my criticism was that money was never for us. They just knew we were going to spend it, and so it kept the economy going. So, can you talk about a little bit about how, if we recycled our dollars into the Black community
Mm.
and not was we weren't so quick to spend, what impact would that have?
Well, um, the middle class drives the economy, and that's why you typically look at the blue collar workers. They're the ones that are going to be spending the money. Now, you make a good point about recycling the money into the Black community. Awesome idea. However, we don't own anything in the Black community. So our money leaves immediately from the liquor store, the gas station, the currency exchanges. So you have to like count the number of Black businesses, and I mean brick and mortar Black businesses that are in
Right.
the community, not just, oh, I have a business working out of my home, because no one can patronize you, by going to the corner. So that's one reason why our money leaves immediately out of the community.
Hmm.
But then also the we have, like, never had a plan for the money. And without
Gotcha.
a plan, it would always fail. So Winston Churchill, he always said, like, never let a good crisis go to waste. That's what this
Okay.
pandemic is. It's a crisis. And some people are going to be hurt, and some people are going to come out of this crisis better than others.
Right.
And by
I,
better,
I see it firsthand.
yeah, yep. And I'm looking at the opportunities, because I'm looking at when everything shut down, the stock market just tanked. That was
Right.
your opportunity to get in for pennies on the dollar.
Right.
If you look at our real estate bubbles, when real estate became affordable, before we had these HGTV shows, you can just buy a home and you could have sat on it. The greatest way to develop wealth is home ownership. It's not
Okay.
through renting, it's home ownership, because you can just sit on a home and it's just going to appreciate. The problem with paying rent is you have inflation. So that same dollar that's sitting in your checking account, it's not worth a dollar 5 years later, not even 1 year later, dollar,
Right. Right.
but if you have a home, yes, there is inflation, but there also is appreciation. So that same home that you could have bought for 100,000, it may now be worth 200,000.
Right.
You know, where else are you going to make 100% return on your money? And you didn't even need to have $100,000 to buy $100,000 house.
Right.
You can get in with 3% down. So when I bought my first investment property, it was 180,000. It was a 4 unit. Only had to put down 5%. 5% was $9,000.
Right.
But they had home buyer programs that was giving people $7,500. So now I only got to come up with $1,500.
Wow.
But you have tenants in there. You get a proration of the rent. You get a proration of the security deposits. You get the taxes. So I actually walked away from the closing table with a check in my pocket just
Hmm.
by signing my name. So I didn't use any of my money, but now that's an income producing asset.
Right.
Now that was in 2002. I said for 180,000, right?
Right.
I just refinanced that property earlier this year, and that property appraised for 355,000
Wow.
just by sitting on the property.
Right. And,
So
and I think too many people don't understand what that takes. Obviously, it's about saving, and if you know what you're doing, saving some money, but also having good credit, and like you say, having a plan and
mm,
understanding the strategy. And
right,
and, and I think so often, we run out in rent, and I get it. There's necessity, so I don't know when to want to negate people's situations.
right,
So I don't want to look down on that. But at the same time, I don't think people understand how the game works.
right, right. So when you talk about credit, imagine this. Um, let's just say you have great credit. You have an 800 credit score, and you put in the time to get that 800 credit score. Now you have a child that is 18 years old with zero credit. All you need to do at this point is add your child as an additional person on one of your cards or multiple cards, and now they inherit all of your credit history. And now they themselves have an 800 credit score. So now what you're doing is you're putting them in the position of being able to obtain a loan versus getting denied because someone's telling them they don't have credit history.
Right.
Or if you are being diligent and you're just, as we said, if you're just saving $1,000 a year, now your child is 18. Let's say you gift them $18,000. Now they have your credit and they have $18,000.
Right.
But it's bigger than just giving them credit and money. You have to give them knowledge to know what to do with that money.
Right.
And that's why so many people go broke when they inherit money, because you never told them how to multiply that money or how to apply the money. And
Absolutely.
that's when it starts with early age. So when you say like, when do you start? Man, when that baby's coming out of the womb, that's when you start reading books, educating yourself, and you living by examples. So rather than a 1 year birthday party's $2,500, why not buy them a Disney stock? Or
Right.
why not take it a step further and say, all right, even if I am going to buy you a Louis Vuitton bag or whatever it may be, I'm going to buy the bag and I'm going to buy a share of the stock. You know,
Absolutely.
so every time you invest in this company, at least you're getting some return on the money because you're
Mhm.
patronizing them.
Right.
So I think that's it starts there at a young age once they see the correlation. But you gotta start planting those seeds.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up, there are a couple of things that I want you to talk about. Um, College funds, and so yet again another conversation that I had. Do you have your in and a lot of my conversations are with clients, but I don't want to say that.
Yeah.
But so do you have a college fund? Well, I'm waiting for this to happen, or I don't know where to start, and so forth. And so me doing some research, I was able to find that, now my grandson has a 529 plan.
Right.
And and I was putting $75 up to 200. So
Hmm.
$100 a month goes into his college fund, and it's growing. Can you
Hmm.
talk about the 504 plan and why that's important? I
Five
mean, the
twenty nine.
529,
Five
529,
twenty
I'm
nine.
sorry.
Yep. The 529 is very important. A lot of people may not do it. Think they have that mentality. Just don't go to college. You can use it for trade school. You can use it for high schools because some high schools you have to pay tuition. Some of the elementary schools you have to pay, tuition. You can use the money for that. And even if your child doesn't reap the benefits, or let's just say they get a scholarship and they don't need it, you can pass it on to another sibling or another relative. But for the 529, for me, I love it because even when my children have birthdays, when people say, "Hey, what do your kid? What do they want for their birthday?" I send them the link to the 529. Say,
That's what
just
I
gift,
do.
just gift. Same thing for Christmas, just
Right.
gift.
Right.
Because that's more important, and this is something they're going to remember, and they're going to thank you later because you contributed to their financial freedom.
Right.
But as you mentioned, you can do it for family members too. I love it. You also get tax benefits. You get a little reduction off your state. You can do anywhere from 0 to $20,000, and it's just great, And then that's what you wanna lead the kids. I had an employee that worked for me. She had 3 kids, and her dad was such a forward thinker that he had invested and he paid for all 3 of the children's college education. He had set it up
Nice.
before they were even born. Kids
Wow.
didn't have any student loans. We have to
Right.
be forward thinkers like that. And that's when you become a visionary, it's what future do I want to have? And I want to take care of my family and generations, even when I'm not even here.
Right. Absolutely. It's about leaving a legacy. So
Yeah.
I want you to close on one point. And we talked about this pre-show, and I just thought it was a good concept, and not to go back, but you talked about the Cadillac mentality. I just thought it was great. So I really want to, because I want to change the narrative.
Yeah.
And so, can you explain what that means and why it's so important? And because here's the thing, I think information we as a, not only as a generation, but we as a people, we continue to lose because, for one, either we don't have the knowledge, we don't want the knowledge, or we're not disciplined enough to follow through with a plan.
Mm,
And the gap gets wider and wider and wider, whether it's through generation, whether it's other ethnic groups and so forth. And I think there's more than enough information. I think some of us has cracked the code to
mm.
wealth. And so there's really no more excuses other than the mentality. So can you
Right.
talk about that, and we'll begin to close?
Yeah, definitely. So, as I mentioned, my uncles, they grew up in Mississippi. And in Mississippi, 16, 17, you would migrate from Mississippi, you would come to the north because there were jobs. But then to see whether a black person was successful, it was what kind of car they were driving. And back then, Cadillac was the car. If you owned yourself a Cadillac and a nice suit, what they call the zoot suits, then you pretty much made it. You know,
Right,
you can
right,
pick up
right,
any
right.
woman if you had a zoot suit or if you had a Cadillac. That was their emblem. Like now, our emblem has changed to now Louis Vuitton and Gucci and bags and purses and Mercedes and the loud hair and the long
Jordans.
fingernails. Yeah, Jordans and Yeezys and things like that. We wear our wealth. We want to show it and display it versus it being an account. But we really cash broke, or our credit is terrible because we borrow and we open up accounts in our kids' names because our credit is terrible. You
Right,
know, and that's what we have to change, and that's that gratification. I think it's a lot of pressure now with social media, and people can follow your life and they see the vacations you taking and what you wear and what you're doing, and we post so more just to show people that, hey, I made it, I got a little money. And in
right.
reality, I'm saying if you got to post about it, then you don't have it. You know.
Man, that's a mouthful right there. I get excited about different things, and anybody who knows me knows that I like watches. And the the more money I make, guess what? I haven't bought a watch. I don't care about it no more. Like I, I say, I'm gonna buy one. I'm gonna buy a nice one for my 50th. I'm
Yeah.
even considering that. Not even considering that.
No, but you should do it, you know. And when we talk about budgets, like we said, pay yourself first. But if you
Right,
break down the categories, like if you pay yourself first and you do investments and you tithe and you have your home mortgage or your rent and your utilities, we also have an entertainment budget. We
hmm
also have a trip budget for travel. You may even have a watch budget. It may be number 16 on your list, but $10 to $15 could be going to there. And once you have it, like, yep, I
right,
saved for this. I budgeted for this.
right,
You
right.
know, you just not
And
making it your number one priority.
not at all anymore. My favorite thing to do, and I have, it's a group of us. My cousin, my brother, and another friend. We share stock information. Me and my cousin sat out on the porch. Was it? I think it was Saturday morning, learning how to read
Charts.
charts and things like that. And he's schooling me, and that's excites me these days. And I
Yeah,
get it. I wish I would have had it in my 20s, but
yeah, yeah,
hey, I'm here now. So,
yeah, yep, yep.
any
It's never too
any
late.
never too late. Any final thoughts?
Man, final thoughts for me is I just need people to unlearn what they were taught about money and then just understand credit. You know, you have good credit and you have bad credit. You have to know the differences. And most importantly, you got to know assets versus liabilities. And that's where it starts. And as you said, like you have to start changing the narrative because it's never too late. You know, hopefully everyone lives a long and productive life, but you never know. Life is just like it's a gamble, and that's what
Right,
my uncle would say is like every night you go to sleep you gambling because you
right.
don't know if you're gonna wake up in the morning. So quit putting it
Yes,
off. You know, quit saying you're gonna do it next year. Quit setting it. You know, saving your New Year's resolution. Your New Year's resolution to be right now. Like
right.
let's change the narrative.
And I think, especially for our young kids, we really got to change the narrative and stop putting their value on what clothes they can wear, what shoes they can wear, and things like that, and really start teaching them how to save money, build wealth, and
Mm,
having conversations about money and saving and things like that. And they always talk about, the loudest one in the room is probably the brokest one in the room, but you know we need to change that narrative. There's too much at stake. And my hope, in kind of in closing, my hope is not only to have the financial freedom, but for me is to leave a legacy.
Right.
Is to leave a legacy of not only teaching, but a legacy of wealth.
Mm.
And here's the thing. When we talk about other ethnic groups and all that kind of stuff, those kids get a head start because of the legacy that's left behind.
They
And
do.
and I mean financial legacy. And I want to be able to do that for my kids. I want to be able to do that for my grandson and so forth.
Hmm.
So young sir, I want to thank you. It's a wealth of knowledge, and the show is everything I expected. And I will definitely have you on again, and we could talk about other things more specifically. But for now, good night, and thank you from Chicago. You're in Chicago, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Chicago.
So is it freezing out there?
No, man, it's like it's 40 degrees. We used to it. We just going through the motions right now. It's no snow on the ground, but
All
it's
right.
it's once again it's embracing it, knowing what to expect.
All right. I was golfing in 80-degree weather today, so
Yeah,
figure
now
that one out.
yeah, we're getting the skis ready. We about to start skiing. So,
All right, young sir. Thank you, and I appreciate you. And tell the family I said hey.
same. I'll talk to you later.
All right. So there you have it, young folks. I want to thank you for continuing to support the show. We will have some more topics on financial literacy. I think it's too important, and we have to change the narrative when we talk about wealth, investing, saving, and just understanding how money works so we can live better, be better. And so, once again, I want to thank you. This has been Indestructible Souls, and I will see you next week.